Chapter 91 Simulator Upgrade and Exaggerated Changes, subscribe. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 91 Simulator Upgrade and Exaggerated Changes, subscribe. 9.9 Spirit. This is the highest spiritual power of the first level spiritual wizard. 14.2 Constitution. What does this mean? You should know that Chen Mu's physical attribute was only 6.8 after it was materialized. Taiwan Novel Network. It has increased by nearly 10 points. Before, he already had the physical fitness of a great knight. This physical fitness was not increased from 0, but increased on the basis of a great knight. Although Chen Mu did not know how strong the epic knight was, he knew that no matter how strong the epic knight was, he was still a scum in front of him. The most important thing is the blood witchcraft column in the last column, 3 first-level blood witchcrafts. Some people who have been first-level wizards for decades probably have mastered less than Chen Mu in the first-level witchcraft. Now he can be said to be fully developed. The spiritual system is the limit of the third-level wizard apprentice, and the blood system is the first-level blood wizard. Master 8 0-ring witchcraft and 3 first-ring witchcraft, strong mental power and strong physique. The improvement brought to him by this simulation is too great, which makes Chen Mu feel unreal. Now Chen Mu has an impulse to rush back to the Violet Continent and crush the 3 wizards in the White Tower into powder. So what if I am a first-level wizard? I am also a first-level wizard now, and I may even be stronger than you. The improvement of strength will make people swell, and Chen Mu is a little swelled at this time. It's just that he has the capital to swell. However, Chen Mu still calmed his excitement, can't be impulsive. The 3 old guys in the White Tower have lived for who knows how many years. Who knows what means they have. It's no good for him to return to the Violet Continent now, but at this time, Chen Mu can be said to have truly established a foothold in the Wizard Continent. There are not many first-level wizards in the entire Wizard Continent. After becoming a first-level blood wizard, Chen Mu can really see inward. It is not the kind of inner vision that relies on the spiritual eye. Chen Mu's mind moved, and he looked inward at his body that had been transformed by the blood seed. The blood seed is different from the life seed of the Knight's Road. It is just a description. Not that it will become a real seed after being integrated into the body. Instead, it is integrated into his blood and turned into the blood flowing in Chen Mu's body. At this time, it is not an exaggeration to say that Chen Mu has completely changed. It is impossible for the White Tower to rely on other means to lock his position or information. In other words, as long as Chen Mu is not stupid at this time and takes the initiative to expose that he is the one who has the third-level wizard treasure, then he will not be discovered unless the people of the White Tower use the Genuine order to scan his body face to face. However, the people of the White Tower will not be so stupid. If they are not accurately determined, they will not easily activate the Genuine order. After all, who would be willing to live 10 years less after activating it once? After looking into his body, Chen Mu did not find anything abnormal. Perhaps the blood seed in the simulation is abnormal, but after being filtered by the simulator, Chen Mu's body in reality has no abnormality. Thinking of this, Chen Mu's mind moved, and the blood seed in the spiritual key appeared in his palm, just as he thought. The fusion of blood seeds in the simulation will not affect the blood seeds in reality. At this moment, Chen Mu truly understood the power of the simulator. This is equivalent to creating something out of thin air in the simulation, and then feeding it back to his body in reality. This kind of power involves too much. At least Chen Mu is far from reaching this level at this time. The plug-in is too strong, he must grasp it. But looking at the blood seed in the palm of his hand, Chen Mu's eyes are a little complicated. Blood seeds cannot be fused repeatedly, and each person can only fuse once. The blood seed is more like helping you open the door to the path of blood wizards. As for if you want to increase the upper limit of the blood later, you have to really find a living white crow. However, the concentration of this blood seed is very high, enough to support Chen Mu to reach the realm of a second-level wizard. So now the blood seed in Chen Mu's hand is of no use to him, but Chen Mu is not very happy to let him throw it away directly. It can't be sold, and throwing it away directly is not Chen Mu's style. It's really a hot potato, Chen Mu said to himself, and then put the blood seed back into the space key. The fact that it can be put into the space key means that this blood seed must be dead. As for why he died after fusion in the simulation, Chen Mu didn't want to explore it at this time. Just as Chen Mu closed the panel, a mechanical voice sounded in Chen Mu's mind. It's here. congratulations to the host for successfully becoming a first-level wizard. The Wizard's Life Simulator 2.0 has begun to upgrade. The upgrade time is 1 natural day. Chen Mu was not surprised. Chen Mu had thought about the simulator upgrade before. The simulator had been upgraded once when he was a first-level wizard apprentice. There was no reason not to upgrade when he was a first-level wizard, so when the mechanical voice came out in his mind, Chen Mu had already expected it. However, Chen Mu didn't know what changes this simulator upgrade would bring. The last upgrade only added a magic stone to charge, which made Chen Mu a little disappointed. Hopefully there will be some big changes to the simulator this time around. Time passed, and a day passed quickly. Chen Mu did not go anywhere that day, and waited for the changes after the simulator upgrade in the hotel apartment. Although he was a little disappointed with the last simulator upgrade, Chen Mu was still looking forward to it this time. After all, who doesn't want to make their plugin stronger? Chen Mu waited attentively until a mechanical voice sounded in his mind. The Wizard's Life Simulator 2.0 has been upgraded, and the Wizard's Life Simulator 3.0 is at your service. Note 1. The Wizard's Life Simulator 3.0 has added a real body simulation option, which can accumulate a real body simulation opportunity once a year without magic stone charging. The real body simulation can inherit the realm, magic, and memory in the simulation, and return to reality after death. Note 2. Text simulation requires charging magic stones, from 10100, and the number of simulations can be accumulated once a month. Real body simulation. Chen Mu was shocked. There was actually a big change after the simulator was upgraded. This change is too exaggerated. Real body simulation can be accumulated once a year. This is much more outrageous than text simulation. First of all, the real body simulation can perfectly inherit the realm, magic, and memory in the simulation. This alone is enough to surprise Chen Mu. You should know that the biggest disadvantage of the previous text simulation is that it cannot inherit the memory in the simulation. This will cause Chen Mu in reality to miss some details, but the real body simulation will not. In addition to inheriting the realm and magic at the same time, the real body simulation can also inherit the memory. The simulation ends after death, which means that even the real body simulation will not affect his reality and will not be too dangerous. Chen Mu understands what this means too well. Isn't this just letting him be reborn in this world, then die and be reborn again? Then Chen Mu will know the future clearly. Generally speaking, it is similar to a type of novel that Chen Mu read in his previous life, where the immortal emperor was surrounded and reborn. Ahem, off topic. The real body simulation and rebirth are similar in nature, and the most important thing is that Chen Mu in the real body simulation is Chen Mu himself. He has all the memories in the real body simulation, including the memory of the simulator, so Chen Mu can clearly understand what he is doing. This is extremely important. As for once a year, Chen Mu is already very satisfied. Not to mention once a year, even if it is only once, it will be of great help to Chen Mu. Opening the panel, Chen Mu focused his attention on the simulation times column. Sure enough, he found something different. The panel is materialized according to Chen Mu's understanding, so it is normal to have changes. Number of text simulations, 0. Number of real body simulations, 0. The simulation times are divided into two, text simulation and real body simulation, but both simulation times are 0 at this time. Too stingy, not giving me a real body simulation to experience. In a good mood, Chen Mu rarely joked to himself in his heart. Of course, having this idea shows that he can't wait to experience the real body simulation. As for the magic stone charging requirement of the text simulation increased from 10 to 100, Chen Mu didn't care too much. Now he is already a first-level wizard, and it is too easy to earn magic stones. Chen Mu already had a plan to make money. In the next few days, Chen Mu did not stay in the hotel apartment. Instead, he walked out of the hotel and stepped into the city. Fancheng is the only city on Fan Island, so it is naturally huge. It has to be said that this is a relatively livable city, and it has a large population. Chen Mu even found several third-level wizard apprentices in the city these days. Of course, there is no formal wizard. After all, Fancheng is not a particularly large island. The controller of this city is a big family on Fan Island, but this has nothing to do with Chen Mu. Of course, maybe in the future. After all, Chen Mu's money-making plan inevitably requires him to face these family forces. The SP family actually has a formal wizard, but that formal wizard is not in the city now, although that person is not there. The prestige that the SP family has accumulated in finching for a long time still makes countless people dare not spy. After all, the wizard of the SP family is just absent, not dead. Of course, this kind of prestige is better than nothing for Chen Mu, because he is just an outsider. The current Chen Mu is no longer the same as before. The current Chen Mu is a real first-level wizard. As of now, there are 0 people in the entire finching who can threaten him. That's right, no one is a threat to Chen Mu. In other words, he is invincible, although the range of invincibility is a bit small. After walking around the entire finching, Chen Mu stopped. Chen Mu just stood there, and the people around him walked and stopped, but no one noticed him. This is not bad, this is it. Chen Mu's face was calm, and the corners of his mouth slightly raised an arc. Please subscribe. Chapter 92 Meeting with White Crow in half a year. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 92, half a year later, and White Crow Society. Time always slips away inadvertently, and in the blink of an eye, it has been half a year later. In a huge apartment in the northern part of Fincheng, Chen Mu flipped through the books in his hand slowly. 3 white crows flew in the distance, and when they flew in front of Chen Mu, the 3 crows turned into one, and then turned into a young man. The young man knelt on one knee and spoke calmly. Master, the Luda family compromised and gave up several shops in the north of the city. Chen Mu turned the pages of the book in front of him without changing his expression and nodded gently. Google search TWKN. Let Black Crow take over, let him restrain himself and not cause unnecessary trouble. Okay, Master, I understand. Seeing that the young man did not move, Chen Mu closed the book in his hand and said, just say it directly, don't hesitate. Master, we are developing too fast, which has caused dissatisfaction among the Spur family. Recently, they have been making more and more moves. If there are any more moves, just take action directly. Gada is not in the city, and the Spur family is nothing. Now is not 3 months ago. The White Crow Club does not need to hide in the dark. Chen Mu spoke, and then signaled the people in front of him to leave. The young man nodded respectfully, then turned into 3 crows and left the apartment. Chen Mu picked up the book in front of him again and slowly turned the pages. Half a year is enough to change too many things. In the past 6 months, the White Crow Club wizard organization established by Chen Mu has made a lot of money. Now the number of magic stones in the space key in Chen Mu's spiritual sea has exceeded 1,500. This is the number of magic stones after Chen Mu simulated using 600 magic stones 6 times. That is to say, in just half a year, Chen Mu harvested thousands of magic stones. This is an extremely exaggerated number. It has to be said that if Chen Mu was alone, it would not be easy to get so many magic stones, and if Chen Mu was a first-level wizard of the spiritual system, he would not be able to pull up a large wizard organization in such a short time. You should know that the development of wizard organizations is accumulated over time. Just like the White Rose School where Chen Mu was before, it took hundreds of years of development to have 2 first-level wizards and 10 third-level wizard apprentices. As for Chen Mu, the White Crow Club he has now formed has 7 third-level wizard apprentices, and there are as many as 30 second-level wizard apprentices. Of course, this is also related to the different development paths of the White Crow Club and the White Rose School. Chen Mu can pull up such a large wizard organization, relying on One Ring bloodline witchcraft. White Crow Seal. This witchcraft is the basis for Chen Mu to dare to form a wizard organization. Most of these third-level wizard apprentices and second-level wizard apprentices were forcibly pulled into the White Crow Society by Chen Mu. After being planted with the White Crow Seal, these people are completely loyal to him and will not have the slightest disloyalty, and these people are not without gain. After being planted with the White Crow Seal by Chen Mu, they will immediately master several simplified versions of blood witchcraft, such as the Crow Transformation technique, used by the young man just now, and Chen Mu did not completely treat them as cannon fodder. They are just loyal to Chen Mu, not without their own personality. The current White Crow Society can also be said to be the original team created by Chen Mu. Most of those great wizards have power. Even if they do not have power, most wizards will spend some of their own time to form one. Few wizards are lone walkers, because if you have power, some small things will not waste your time, and you don't have to do everything yourself. And having a power can also provide you with practice resources. how is it possible for a wizard to slowly earn magic stones bit by bit? Why do most wizards form cliques? This is the crux of the matter. Of course, academic wizards have their own power, so they don't need to form their own power. To be precise, Chen Mu is not an academic wizard, and he even looks like a wild wizard. That's why Chen Mu didn't have any intention of hiding his concerns and directly pushed the White Crow Society out in the open. As for whether he would be too arrogant and be disliked by the passing second-level wizards and then slapped to death, Chen Mu was not worried, because there is an advantage of him forming a power, that is, he can see the general future direction. Even if there is an accident in the future, the White Crow Society will provoke an existence that it can't afford to provoke. Then the White Crow Society is also a wizard organization led by the White Crow Society. What does it have to do with him, Chen Mu? Without the White Crow Society, there will be the Black Crow Society and the Red Crow Society. Without the White Crow Society, there will be the Black Crow Society and the Red Crow Society. So this is why Chen Mu is crazy. He has the capital to be crazy. He is already a first-level wizard, and he has a simulator as big as a plug-in. It is not his style to hide and be stingy. Of course, Chen Mu will hide when he needs to. After all, staying alive is the first priority. But now, after 6 simulations, Chen Mu doesn't think there is anything that can make him hide. Bloodline wizards may not have as many other means as spiritual wizards, but when it comes to the means of survival, bloodline wizards are more than a little better than spiritual wizards. Turning to the last page of the book and closing it, Chen Mu's pale white pupils were calm. Bang! A loud noise came from the city lord's hall of Fincheng. Who can tell me where this shitty White Crow Society came from? Evie Sip asked loudly, his tone full of coldness. The people in front of him seemed a little uneasy, and looked at each other for a few times, but in the end they couldn't say anything. The White Crow Society has offended you. Why are you taking it out on us? You arranged everything against them, and now you ask us where the White Crow Society came from. You don't even know. How can we know? Of course, these people can only keep these words in their hearts and dare not say them out. It seems to have suddenly appeared, and I have never heard of this organization before. Suddenly, a small voice came from the crowd. Dordo regretted it when he said this, because when he said this, everyone, including Evie, turned their eyes to him. Why are you all looking at me? I'm a little panicked. There are really people who are the first to come forward. The people in front of Evie looked at Dordo with a hint of sympathy in their eyes. Sure enough, the next moment, it was still the familiar loud voice. I didn't know before, so why did I need you before? Tell me what you are for. You don't know this and that. Tell me, what do you know? Dordo was stunned and opened his mouth to explain something, but in the end he didn't say anything, because Evie was right. He knew nothing about the White Crow Society. He didn't know how many people there were in this organization, and he didn't know who the leader was. He only knew that the name of this organization was the White Crow Society, and this was not what he found out, but what they said themselves. He didn't dare to wipe the spit on Dordo's face, looking extremely embarrassed. Fortunately, someone helped him share the fire the next moment. My lord, the White Crow Society has taken control of 3 shops in the north of the city again, and this time it was the Luda family that gave up the shops. Hearing this, Evie stopped the artillery attack. He frowned, looking ugly. It's only been 3 months, and the White Crow Society has taken control of so many shops in Fincheng, and they don't know how to restrain themselves. Aren't they afraid that the city lord will come back? Will the whole Fincheng belong to them in another 3 months? Evie asked with an ugly face. Now the people in front of him are his punching bags. Everyone was silent, and Evie gradually calmed down. It must be said that the sudden appearance of the White Crow Society made Evie a little uneasy, and even made him a little panicked. After all, he just relied on the first-level wizard being his uncle, to say how capable he is. He himself doesn't think so. What makes him uneasy now is that these people from the White Crow Society appeared too suddenly, without any signs. It seems that it was planned long ago. There won't be a real wizard behind this organization. Thinking of this, Evie's pupils shrank. They searched for the base of the White Crow Society for 2 months, but found nothing. They sent out several third-level wizard apprentices, but still did not find any trace of the so-called White Crow Association leader. My uncle. How long has the city lord been away? My lord, it's been 11 months. The city lord is expected to come back in the next 2 months. Hearing this, Evie finally breathed a sigh of relief, perhaps because his uncle was about to come back. He was not as panicked as before, as if he had found his backbone. 2 months, 2 months, after 2 months, I must see what your shitty White Crow Association is all about. As long as it is not a real wizard controlling this organization, Evie is confident that his uncle can definitely wipe out the White Crow Association. No wizard wants other wizard organizations to appear in his territory. Of course, Yaoguang Academy is an exception. It's just that their Fan Island is too small, so small that Yaoguang Academy is not interested. Stop the action against the White Crow Association first. Wait for me, wait for the city lord to come back. Evie waved his hand as if he was discouraged, and spoke weakly. Seeing that the people in front of him didn't move, Evie's face turned serious again and he spoke again. What are you all standing there for? Get out. Not seeing that everyone had gone out, Evie rubbed his eyebrows. White Crow Society. What if I give you another 2 months of development time? 2 months later will be your doomsday. What he didn't know was that 2 months later might really be the doomsday, but this doomsday may have nothing to do with the White Crow Society. Spitting out a turbid breath, Chen Mu stopped practicing meditation. In the past 6 months, although Chen Mu would take out some time every day to practice meditation, this time was greatly shortened by him. The reason is very simple, there is no improvement. At this time, his spiritual wizard path has reached the limit of a 3rd-level wizard apprentice. If he only practices meditation, Chen Mu cannot become a 1st-level spiritual wizard. He was stuck, which was also very obvious in the simulation. In 2 of the 6 simulations, Chen Mu completely focused on the spiritual wizard path. The result is obvious. In the simulation, hundreds of years is still the limit for a 3rd-level wizard apprentice, so Chen Mu has now shifted his focus to the path of a bloodline wizard. Perhaps compared to potential, the path of a spiritual wizard is much stronger than that of a bloodline wizard. After all, the bloodline wizard is a path that has been eliminated by the times, but at present, Chen Mu has no way, or no ability to push himself to the 1st-level wizard of the spiritual system. The main reason is that his qualifications are too poor. Chen Mu does not know whether there are people in this world who have 5th-level qualifications and become formal wizards, but even if there are, they definitely do not rely solely on meditation to practice. I can only temporarily put aside the spiritual wizard path. Chen Mu felt helpless. If conditions permit, he would also like to start both paths at the same time, but the problem is that he must make a choice now. Even in the text simulation, it is difficult for him to take care of both paths at the same time, and this reduces the speed of his improvement, and the number of simulations is precious. There is no doubt about this. He improves to become stronger, and now the spiritual wizard path is already dragging him down, so Chen Mu finally made a choice, temporarily putting aside the spiritual wizard path and focusing on the bloodline wizard path. After making this choice, it means that in the future text simulations, Chen Mu will not practice meditation, but focus on refining blood. Of course, Chen Mu has ambitions, but he has temporarily hidden this ambition in his heart. There are still 6 months. The real body simulation 6 months later will be his last attempt to become a 1st-level spiritual wizard. If the real body simulation doesn't work, then Chen Mu will completely give up the spiritual wizard path, until his bloodline is refined to the point where it can no longer be refined. Of course, the road of a bloodline wizard is not so easy. The problem Chen Mu is facing now is that he does not have the bloodline refining method corresponding to the White Crow bloodline. He can only forcibly refine his bloodline, and the problem with this forced refining is that the speed is too slow. At least Chen Mu's 4 simulations that completely focused on the bloodline wizard path have not allowed his bloodline to be refined to the limit, and there is still a long way to go. The lack of bloodline refining method is a problem. There are too few people on the wizard continent who are still insisting on the bloodline wizard path. There is not even one person who has the same bloodline as Chen Mu. In at least 6 simulations, Chen Mu kept trying to find out about the bloodline refining method, but in the end he got nothing. Of course, not having the bloodline refining method might be a fatal problem for others, because it means that the road ahead is completely cut off, but for Chen Mu, this is not a big problem, because Chen Mu has more time than others than just 100 years. It is estimated to be calculated in thousands of years. With the simulator, Chen Mu can stack himself up to a 2nd-level bloodline wizard. By then, Chen Mu may only consume thousands of magic stones and dozens of simulations. How long has it been in reality? Maybe only 3 or 4 years. This speed is far from being matched even with the most perfect bloodline refining method. Thank you for your monthly tickets, thank Yi Depang for 500 points, and thank Shen Huapen for 100 points. Chapter 93 White Storm and Death by One Punch, subscription request. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 93 White Storm and One Punch to Death, please subscribe. In a huge apartment in the North District, Chen Mu opened his tightly closed eyes. Just now, there was something unusual about the white crow seal he planted, but he would soon notice something unusual about the bloodline seal he planted himself. After a while, it was still the same feeling. Gada takes action, Chen Mu thought, but within a moment, the 2 third-level wizard apprentices died one after another. In Finchen, no one except Gada can do this. The Sipu family, which had done little for more than a month, made a big move. As soon as they made a move, the next moment, Chen Mu's figure turned into a flock of crows and disappeared. Gada put away the corpse in front of him. He needed to go back and study the method of turning into a crow. The corpses of these 2 people are undoubtedly the best research materials. After putting away the body, Gada turned to look at Evie and said, "Just these 2?" Evie nodded awkwardly. "These are the only 2 leaders of the White Crow Society that I know of so far. There are also several second-level wizard apprentices that I have sent to deal with them." 2 third-level wizard apprentices did this to you? Gada's tone was a little dissatisfied. After all, Finching is his real territory, so he naturally does not allow outside wizard organizations to run wild here. So after he came back and heard what Evie said, he set off immediately. He had never heard of the White Crow Club, so it was normal for him not to take it seriously. "Uncle, I suspect there is a real wizard behind the White Crow Society." Evie didn't say it before, because in the end it was just his guess. Now that he saw Gada's dissatisfaction, he could only express his suspicion. After hearing this, Gada had no reaction and signaled Evie to follow him and leave here. He didn't think his little place could attract real wizards. Fan Island is the most fringe island on the Yaoguang continent. If he hadn't been born here, Gada would probably never come to such a fringe place in his life. Gada knew exactly what a true wizard was, come to such a remote island to establish power. "I can't figure it out no matter how hard I try." Therefore, he only took Evie's words as an attempt to shirk responsibility. For his junior, Gada still understood him very well, but the next moment, he had to think it even if he didn't think it. Suddenly, hundreds of white crows swarmed here. Almost at this moment, Gada reacted. He moved quickly, and a silver-white wand appeared in his hand. His pupils were tinted with a hint of blue. One ring of witchcraft, the wrath of the sea. The roaring sound of crashing waves filled the air. The waves that appeared out of thin air swept the entire flock of crows, but these white crows were not slowed down by the waves. They just moved upward slightly and then flew towards Gada at a faster speed. Jada's expression remained unchanged, and he tapped the ground with the wand in his hand. The huge waves changed direction and headed towards the white crows, feeling unstoppable. In this moment, Gada had fully reacted. His incompetent junior was indeed right this time. Behind the White Crow Society was actually a first-level wizard. Now he had to believe it even if he didn't believe it, because the middle-aged man who had transformed from a flock of crows into a human was standing in front of him. One ring of bloodline witchcraft, White Storm. This middle-aged man is naturally Chen Mu, who has changed his appearance. Chen Mu didn't feel any discomfort after transforming from a crowd of crows into a human being. The moment he landed, Chen Mu launched his strongest method. The blood witchcraft was activated instantly, and a huge white storm rolled up around Gada. And at the very center of the storm was Gada himself. At this time, Gada's face was extremely solemn. He was holding the wand in his right hand and holding a gem pendant on his chest with his left hand. The next moment, he forcefully removed the gem pendant, and spiritual power poured in. A huge barrier quickly opened with Gada as the center to resist the white storm. A trace of physical pain flashed in his eyes, which turned into anger. Chen Mu increased the scope of the storm, and Evie, who was already sluggish next to him, was directly swept into the storm. In just an instant, Evie turned into dregs. What kind of witchcraft is this? How come it lasts so long? Gada, who was in the center of the storm, felt a little bad. It was not like he had never seen the witchcraft that had been released, it's just that those are auxiliary types of witchcraft. This storm is obviously an attack type of witchcraft. How could it last for such a long time? Jada felt cruel and crushed the gem pendant in his hand into powder. The huge barrier expanded instantly, and the wand in his hand tapped the ground. One ring witchcraft earth surges. Boom! The moment Gada activated his witchcraft, the area was like an earthquake, shaking wildly and even causing many cracks that spread outward. Chen Mu's expression remained unchanged. The white storm stopped, and his body turned into a flock of crows and attacked Gada. One ring of bloodline witchcraft crows. A life-saving witchcraft was used by Chen Mu as an offensive method. The crows were moving extremely fast. Gada stabilized his body and waved the wand in his hand. A large amount of mental power poured out from his spiritual sea, and finally turned into a big hand and slapped the crows in an attempt to scatter the crows. He did achieve his goal, and the crows scattered. However, a pure white crow still flew through the barrier and arrived in front of him. After the crow arrived in front of him, it instantly turned into a human form, and a fist flew towards his head. How could it be? He had just seen that these crows had to merge together to turn into human forms, so why could a single crow do the same now? He was deceived. This was what he thought at that moment, but why was the man in front of him sometimes smart and sometimes stupid? You are better at using a zero-ring magic than a fist. A trace of disdain flashed in Gada's eyes. His reaction was undoubtedly very fast, and he naturally had to seize this opportunity. They were all first-level wizards, and Gada knew clearly that the wizard's fist was no threat to him, so he simply released a zero-ring magic secondary barrier. Then he mobilized all his mental strength to prepare for a fatal blow the moment Chen Mu's fist was blocked, but this time, he misjudged. It was still a fatal misjudgment. Instinct and experience made him think that Chen Mu was a first-level wizard with many tricks, but he didn't know that Chen Mu was indeed a first-level wizard, but a first-level blood wizard. This is a completely different path from a first-level spiritual wizard. Spiritual wizards focus on spiritual power, and blood wizards focus on body and blood. So, when the seemingly light fist easily smashed his secondary barrier, it was too late. Although Gada had tried his best to mobilize all the spiritual power in his spiritual sea, it was still too slow. Although the power of Chen Mu's 15.5 physical attribute punch was not as powerful as the real first-ring witchcraft, it was definitely not something that could be resisted casually. Gada was harmed by his experience. Boom! In just a moment, Chen Mu's fist smashed Gada's head to pieces. Blood splattered. Even a first-level wizard would not be able to survive if his head was smashed. I actually succeeded. When Gada's head was smashed by Chen Mu was a little surprised. In fact, there was a reason for his surprise, because he didn't think he could really kill Gada this time. As a first-level wizard who has lived for hundreds of years, Gada has many trump cards. Even in the simulation, Chen Mu failed to kill this old man in the end, because this old man has too many means. Chen Mu originally planned to fight with this old man this time, so that he would know that there is really a first-level wizard behind the White Crow Society. In this way, the Spur family will be more restrained, and his organization can develop rapidly. If Chen Mu does not take action, the White Crow Society will have to hide again, which is not what Chen Mu wants to see, so he took the initiative to take action and then alerted the enemy, but he didn't expect that this time he took action unexpectedly, and he actually succeeded. The main reason why he succeeded this time was that Gada underestimated the enemy and made a huge mistake in judging him. The biggest trigger was that Gada was not prepared for Chen Mu's fist, because this led to Gada having many trump cards, but in the end, they were useless. The next moment, Chen Mu mobilized his mental power to flow into Gada's broken spiritual sea. An object much larger than a ring but smaller than a bracelet appeared in Chen Mu's hand. Space bracelet. Gada died, and the mental power of the space bracelet naturally dissipated. The space bracelet is now an ownerless object. Chen Mu's mental power flowed into the space bracelet, but in just a moment, this space treasure appeared in Chen Mu's spiritual sea. After successfully recognizing the owner, Chen Mu took the bracelet out of the spiritual sea. With the influx of mental power, everything inside the space bracelet came into view. A gold belt for murder and arson. Looking at the dazzling array of things in the space bracelet, Chen Mu sighed in his heart. Just the thousands of magic stones piled there have already surprised Chen Mu. he only got thousands of magic stones in half a year, and now he has so many more magic stones just by killing a wizard. Chen Mu took a rough look and found that there were at least 3,000 magic stones. What kind of organization is this? It is not faster to kill wizards directly than to manage forces to get magic stones. Of course, Chen Mu would not do this, because not all wizards have space treasures, and wizards are not so easy to kill. This time, Chen Mu was able to kill Gata in a big part because Gata was too confident. In addition to the magic stones, Chen Mu checked everything in the space bracelet again. Teleportation magic disc. Chen Mu failed to kill Gata in the simulation because of this magic disc. This magic disc is different from the magic discs of the third-level wizard apprentice level that Chen Mu has. In this magic disc, an extremely perverted magic is engraved - small teleportation. In that simulation, Gata was not killed for the first time, and Gata's vigilance was full, and he could not be killed again. Fortunately, in reality, Gata was killed by Chen Mu's punch before he had a chance to use the teleportation magic disc. This magic disc is very valuable, and it costs 2,000 magic stones for one, and that's the reserve price. Moonfall Flower. Thorn Orchid. This is Half-Witch Magic Potion. Chapter 95. The Pure Yellow Tower appears again and the people from Yaoguang Academy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 95. The Reappearance of the Pure Yellow Tower and the Visitors from Yaoguang Academy. Subscribe. From the time when the Wizard of the Spur family was killed by Chen Mu with one punch, to the time when the White Crow Society took over Fincheng, it took only a little over a month. Some people in the city had not yet reacted and were just gossiping. A more explosive news spread in Fincheng. The Lord of Fincheng had been replaced. The news of the replacement of the Lord of Fincheng instantly swept the entire Fincheng. This news can be said to be a stone hammer that the Wizard of the Spur family is dead. From gossip to reality, the shock brought to the people of Fincheng was huge, because no matter how they discussed it before, no matter how exaggerated it was, the facts would not change because of their discussion. And now the position of the Lord of the city has really changed, and Fincheng is controlled by an organization called White Crow Society. Until this time, the people of Fincheng realized that the world had changed. It was really changed, not the change they spread. A first-level wizard-level existence actually died. You have to know that the Spur family has controlled Fincheng for hundreds of years. This sudden change made some wizard apprentices who have lived in the city for a long time feel uneasy, not to mention ordinary people. Although Chen Mu had been warming up for more than a month in advance, when the incident really happened, it still caused a great sensation. After all, news is just news. Many people laugh at this kind of gossip. They only believe in facts, so when the facts are like this, they have to believe it. Some people have considered leaving Fincheng and going to other places. After all, the Jiawanghai continent is so large, and there is not only one island, Fan Island, and there is not only one city, Fincheng. These wizard apprentices already have some ability to protect themselves. Where can't they go? After all, they don't know what the White Crow Society that controls Fincheng is doing, and whether it will affect them. Chen Mu did not stop those who left Fincheng. After all, if the city is closed now, it is likely to cause some unnecessary troubles. The White Crow Society is now in a period of vigorous development, and there is no need to focus on these things. However, compared to those who left, there are more people who stayed. After all, there is only one city in the entire Fan Island, Fincheng, and they have lived here for many years. They are unfamiliar with the outside world. Where will they go after leaving? There are also some people who are waiting and watching. If they find something wrong, they will also choose to leave Fincheng. Of course, if Fincheng is still the same as before and there is no change, they will also choose to stay. Chen Mu is well aware of the power of public opinion, so Chen Mu will let the White Crow spread some news from time to time. I believe that these people will soon feel that Fincheng is the most suitable place to live, and the White Crow will be the kindest wizard organization. At this time, in the city Lord Hall of Fincheng, looking at the back of the Black Crow leaving, the Red Crow, that is, Lu Qiao, shook his head helplessly. Since Laika learned that the leader of the association asked him to assist him as the city lord, he came to punch in every day and then handed over all the things to him. On the one hand, Laika knew that he did not have the ability to manage a city. On the other hand, it was also very simple. Just don't want to see him. This little guy, am I that scary? Lucio chuckled, then took out a book from the stacked books in front of him and flipped through it casually. The White Crow Association had just taken over Fincheng, and there were still many things that had been piled up before to deal with. Managing a city is not an easy task. Even Chen Mu has no experience in managing a city, but even if he had experience, he would not be the city lord, he could just stay behind the scenes. Before, Gada only had the title of city lord, and he didn't manage the city at ordinary times, and Chen Mu was too lazy to even have a title. It's better to leave this kind of thing to professionals, and Lu Qiao is undoubtedly the most professional person in the White Crow Association. Lucio slowly flipped through the book in front of him, and the information on the book was remembered in his mind. Before turning a few pages, the door of his office was knocked. The faint smile on Lu Qiao's face disappeared, turned into calmness, and then he opened the door with mental power. The simulation is over, please choose your reward. Retain realm, or retain magic. Retain realm, but there is no doubt that Chen Mu's choice is to retain realm. The next moment, although there is no major change in his body, Chen Mu knows that he has become stronger again, one step closer to the second-level bloodline wizard. After the upgrade, Chen Mu did not get up directly, but thought slightly. Pure Yellow Tower. Chen Mu muttered the name of this organization in his heart. He is not unfamiliar with this organization. If this time is counted, this name should appear in his simulation for the third time. In this simulation, although Chen Mu's improvement in the path of bloodline wizard cannot be said to be the greatest, he has gained a lot in other aspects. It's just a pity that I met the one from the Pure Yellow Tower when I was 180 years old. If it was earlier, maybe I really had a chance to peek into the bloodline refining technique. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect that Lyle from the Pure Yellow Tower is also a bloodline wizard. Chen Mu felt a little emotional. This time he simulated returning to the Violet Continent, and even met the owner of the Violet Continent, the second-level wizard Lyle Odom. Because they are both blood wizards, he had a good relationship with Lyle Odom in the simulation. Even in the last few years of his life, Chen Mu gave his bloodline seeds to Lyle, but it is a pity that Lyle is not a high-level figure in the Pure Yellow Tower. He was even sent to the remote Violet Continent because his potential as a blood wizard had been exhausted. The Pure Yellow Tower is not a small wizard organization. It is a truly large interdimensional organization, according to Lyle. There are 4 planes directly controlled by the Pure Yellow Tower. This is not a city or a country, it is truly 4 complete planes. If we compare Yaoguang Academy with the Pure Yellow Tower, then Yaoguang Academy is undoubtedly the Firefly, while the Pure Yellow Tower is the Bright Moon. However, it was not that he gained nothing after giving away the bloodline seeds. I still got some secrets, such as the last few paragraphs of black text in the simulation. Age 212, ask Lyle about the bloodline refining technique. Lyle tells you that only by joining the Pure Yellow Tower can you have a chance to obtain the bloodline refining technique you want. You ask Lyle, does the Pure Yellow Tower really have the White Crow bloodline refining technique? Lyle told you, as long as you can imagine it, the Pure Yellow Tower has it. As long as Chen Mu can imagine it, the Pure Yellow Tower has it. These are Lyle's exact words in the text simulation. In other words, if Chen Mu asked like that in reality, he would also get the same reply. What a confidence. However, Chen Mu didn't think that the Pure Yellow Tower was really that exaggerated. Chen Mu can tell you something that the Pure Yellow Tower definitely doesn't have, but he does have it. The Pure Yellow Tower may really have the White Crow bloodline refining technique, or even a living White Crow, but that is too far away from me. Chen Mu was tangled in thoughts, but in the end he just sighed helplessly. That was an organization controlled by a 5th-level wizard. Chen Mu couldn't guarantee that he would become a 5th-level wizard even if he had a simulator, and until his death, Lyle did not tell him exactly how to join the Pure Yellow Tower. Chen Mu thought it was because he was too old at that time. Lyle felt that there was no possibility of him joining the Pure Yellow Tower, so he did not inform him. After all, Chen Mu in the simulation was already nearly 200 years old at that time. His potential has been exhausted and he is still only a 1st-level wizard. It is normal for the Pure Yellow Tower to look down on him. Putting away his messy thoughts, Chen Mu let out a long breath. There is no use thinking too much. Even if he actually joins the Pure Yellow Tower in the simulation, there is no guarantee that everything will go according to his ideas. So what if you really join? Whether you can obtain the blood refining technique and whether you can obtain a living White Crow are all unknown. Now, relying on the simulator, he can forcibly refine his bloodline to the limit in about 3 or 4 years, reaching the level of a second-level bloodline wizard. Even with the blood refining technique, Chen Mu couldn't match this speed. What else could Chen Mu be dissatisfied with? Man, you are still too greedy. Chen Mu planned to walk out of the apartment and stroll around Fendeo. As the person behind the scenes of the White Crow Society, Chen Mu feels a lot more relaxed now that the White Crow Society is on the right track. He doesn't need to do anything within the meeting himself. Refining bloodline is not a matter of time, so Chen Mu decided to relax. Otherwise, he, a first-level wizard, would be forced to live like an otaku in his previous life. But the next moment, Chen Mu saw the core members of the White Crow Society walking toward him, and a trace of helplessness flashed in his eyes. Well, it seems that the relaxation has to be postponed. The core members of the White Crow Society are all third-level wizard apprentices, so naturally something happens to the core members when they come to him. After the man in white robe approached Chen Mu, he spoke respectfully. Guild Master, Red Crow wants you to go to the city main hall. Someone from Yaoguang Academy is here. It seems that it is indeed time to hand in the confession. Just hand in the magic stone as usual. Didn't I say that I don't need to check this kind of thing? He can handle it by himself. After hearing this, Chen Mu spoke. He thought it was something, but it turned out to be these. Although he asked Black Crow to be the city lord, Chen Mu knew that it was Red Crow who really handled the affairs in the city. Red Crow is truly loyal to him, so Chen Mu can safely delegate power to him. He had said before that there was no need to ask him for instructions on such matters, but after some calculation, it is indeed time to give the magic stone to Yaoguang Academy, the White Crow Society is now in control of Fan City, so the matter of offering sacrifices naturally falls on the White Crow Society. Even if they pay tribute normally, Yaoguang Academy can't do anything to them. Master, here is a first-level wizard. The wizard asked to see you. The Red Crow is dealing with the wizard. By the way, let me pass the news to you immediately. The man in white robe spoke. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. This bullshit guy from Yaoguang Academy actually asked their guild leader to meet him in person. Who the hell is he? Hearing this, Chen Mu suddenly remembered. He really didn't think of this just now. In the simulation, this matter was just a simple black text. The person who came to Finching to collect magic stones this time was indeed a first-level wizard. However, this wizard did not come to cause trouble for him, but to establish a good relationship with him. It was precisely because there was no threat to Chen Mu that he didn't think of it just now. Okay, I'll go there. Chen Mu said, and the man in white robe in front of him nodded respectfully, then turned into 3 crows and flew away. I'll wait a little longer. Don't worry. I've heard about Bai Yao taking over Finching before I came here. Yaoguang Academy won't make things difficult for you. Lu Qiao looked at Bale, who spoke with a gentle smile in front of him, feeling a little disapproving in his heart. Opening one's mouth to Yaoguang Academy and closing one's mouth to Yaoguang Academy, no matter how you hear it, it sounds like you are trying to overwhelm others with power. However, Lu Qiao still smiled and nodded in agreement. No matter what, the bell in front of him was also a true first-level wizard. Bale taking the initiative to talk to him was already giving him face. After all, not all wizards will smile and talk to you. What's more, he is only a third-level wizard apprentice. In the eyes of real wizards, third-level wizard apprentices are like giant ants. The next moment, the door to the room was pushed open, and a middle-aged man appeared in front of the door. This middle-aged man is naturally Chen Mu himself. Bloodline wizards have a kind of witchcraft that is not witchcraft, that is, they can change their body shape. It would be difficult to detect this kind of first-level wizard who changes the spiritual system without using his mental power. Of course, if you use your mental power to explore everything, you will definitely find abnormalities. It's just that Chen Mu is no longer what he used to be at this time. And wizards cannot spy on each other at will. If there is someone who is really curious about Chen Mu's true appearance, then Chen Mu wouldn't mind letting him get curious. At least Bale would not take the initiative to use his mental power to spy on Chen Mu. Chen Mu kept his eyes on Belle for a moment, then moved his eyes away to indicate to Lu Qiao that he could go out first. When Lu Qiao passed by Chen Muji, he nodded respectfully and left the room. Hello, Belle Dessen, I am here from Yaoguang Academy to collect magic stones. When Chen Mu was sizing up Bai Lai just now, Bai Lai was also sizing up Chen Mu. he knew that the person in front of him was the official wizard who killed Gada. He didn't seem to have anything special about him. Nicholas, master of the White Crow Guild. Chen Mu replied. Even though Chen Mu had gone through several simulations and tried not to hit the smiling man, he had no favorable impression of Yaoguang Academy and was even extremely disgusted with it, but in reality, this was his first time meeting someone from Yaoguang Academy, and he was also a first-level wizard on the same level as him, so he didn't show any unnecessary emotions. It was very calm. On the contrary, Belle was very enthusiastic. I have long disliked Gada. Brother Nicholas has made a big splash this time. Now the news that you killed Gada and took control of Fan City has spread throughout the northern continent. Bale smiled and spoke, his tone full of compliments. Hearing this, Chen Mu chuckled, although he didn't know when Belle learned the news and rushed to finishing so quickly, but it is completely impossible to say that the news of Gada's killing spread throughout the northern continent. Chen Mu has learned a lot about the Jiawanghai continent in the past few months, so he clearly knows how vast the northern continent of Jiawanghai is. However, this deliberate flattery of Chen Mu was not exposed, but he pretended to be very useful. The two slowly started chatting, and at the end of the conversation, Bale even expressed that he would exempt the White Crow Society from having to pay tribute this time. However, Chen Mu decisively refused, saying that he would not make it difficult for Bale. This time he will offer more magic stones, not less. If he really wants to spare Bai Lai this time, then Chen Mu will have the leverage in Bai Lai's hands. Chen Mu is not stupid either. Several simulation experiences have made him very aware of how hypocritical the people at Yaoguang Academy are. If they fall out in the future, Bale will definitely blame him for not paying the confession, not Bale who helped him avoid it. After all, Bale doesn't have such great power yet. At that time, who will Yaoguang Academy believe? Anyway, it is unlikely that they will believe Chen Mu. When Yaoguang Academy takes action, it often gives an inexplicable reason. Naturally, Chen Mu would not let the exemption of magic stones become this unfounded reason. The two were laughing and chatting, but no one knew what they were thinking. Chapter 96 Real Body Simulation and the Real World. Please subscribe. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 96 Real Body Simulation and Real World. Subscribe. Bai Lai left, and took away a lot of magic stones. To be honest, when Chen Mu saw Bai Lai put the magic stones into the space treasure, he was a little jealous. However, Chen Mu still resisted the urge to take action. This is not a good habit. How can you want to rob people when you see them? After leaving the City Lord's Hall, Chen Mu can finally relax on Fan Island. For a real wizard, Fan Island is really not big. If Chen Mu is at full strength, he can even visit Fan Island in one day. However, Chen Mu is relaxing, so he naturally won't do this, so Chen Mu chooses to spend a few days to stroll around Fan Island. In the following time, the White Crow Association's control of Fan City has been put on the right track. Lu Qiao has managed Fan City well, and the people in Fan City have gradually settled down from panic, because they found that their lives did not change much after the White Crow Association took over Fan City, but the management of the city became stricter. There are fewer cases of outsiders taking action in Fancheng, because once someone takes action in Fancheng for no reason, they will be forcibly suppressed by the white-robed people of the White Crow Society, and their safety is higher than before. And some people from small families dare not act recklessly, because now is not the same as before. A first-level wizard resident in Fan Island makes all those who are interested dare not act recklessly. The Spur family, who is that? Really unfamiliar. They only recognize the White Crow Society now, and are not familiar with the others. The current White Crow Society has thousands of peripheral personnel, and nearly 100 first and second-level wizard apprentices. There are even as many as 15 third-level wizard apprentices. The most important thing is that the person in charge of the White Crow Society is Chen Mu himself, a real first-level wizard. This development speed is a bit unexpected even to Chen Mu himself. It is too fast. Now Fancheng is completely controlled by the White Crow Society. Of course, Chen Mu has no intention of reaching out now. It is true that the White Crow Society is developing very fast now, but it needs to be digested slowly because it is developing too fast. If it continues to expand its influence, it will not be good for the current White Crow Society. So under Chen Mu's suggestion, the White Crow Society gradually calmed down and began to manage the land of Fincheng. Time passed, and it has been more than 5 months since Bale came to Fincheng to collect magic stones. 5 months passed in a flash, in the apartment where Chen Mu lives in Fincheng. At this time, Chen Mu looked a little puzzled, frowning slightly as if he was thinking about something. The next moment, Chen Mu's mental power moved, and a bottle of magic potion appeared in his hand. Chen Mu looked at the magic potion carefully, and compared it with the knowledge he had found in the past few months, and finally came to a conclusion. Maybe it's really because of the lack of primers, otherwise it can't explain why there was no effect after taking the magic potion in 5 simulations. According to probability, it must be successful once in 5 times. Chen Mu rubbed his chin, and then put the bottle of magic potion back into the space bracelet. In the 5 simulations, although Chen Mu followed the path of a bloodline wizard, he would take the half-witch potion to try his luck in each simulation. The first 2 times failed, which Chen Mu thought was normal, but the 3rd and 4th time still had no effect, and Chen Mu felt something was wrong. Then he asked the White Crow Society to pay attention to books on this subject and help him find them, and finally saw a sentence in some unpopular books, that is, most potions in ancient times need to add primers to have the original effect. But the problem is that Chen Mu doesn't know what the primer of the half-witch potion is. In the last simulation, Chen Mu also inquired about this information. In the end, although he gained some results, he still failed to become a first-level wizard of the spiritual system. Don't think about it anymore, the primer can be slowly tried and wrong in the future. After all, as long as he doesn't take the half-witch potion in reality, he can keep trying and wrong in the simulation. It's just a little time in the simulation that is wasted. After all, there are no side effects if this potion fails. He still has to take the path of a bloodline wizard. After 5 simulations, Chen Mu is now 1 step closer to becoming a level 2 wizard. If he had the blood refining technique, he might have reached the limit of a level 2 wizard, but this speed is already very fast. At least Chen Mu is not dissatisfied now. Moreover, he established a good relationship with Lyle in advance during this simulation, and Lyle finally told him how to join the Pure Yellow Tower. Although he was told, Lyle did not think that Chen Mu could really join the Pure Yellow Tower. After all, those methods sounded like they were embarrassing people. At least at this time, Chen Mu had lost the qualification to join the Pure Yellow Tower. Of course, nothing is inevitable. In less than a month, Chen Mu can try the new function of the simulator after the upgrade, Real Body Simulation. Maybe Chen Mu can find a way in the Real Body Simulation. Chen Mu has been looking forward to this new simulation method for almost a year. After all, the Real Body Simulation can retain the realm, magic, and memory. The most important thing is that he no longer needs to use his subconscious to tell himself what to do, because everything in the Real Body Simulation is done by himself. Time flies, and more than half a month has passed in the blink of an eye. At this time, Chen Mu's eyes flashed with anticipation, because the panel in front of him that only he could see changed. Number of Real Body Simulations, 1, coming, a Real Body Simulation that only happens once a year. Do you want to enable Real Body Simulation? Yes. Chen Mu didn't hesitate and thought about it. The next moment, the imagined change did not happen. He is still himself, but the panel in front of him has disappeared. Panel? Chen Mu thought in his mind, but there was no reaction. The simulator seemed to disappear without giving him any feedback. Already started? A flash of shock flashed in Chen Mu's eyes. Is this about to start? Chen Mu raised his hand and moved his body, finally walked out of the apartment and outside. Nothing has changed. He feels exactly the same now as he does in reality. He has all the memories, all his witchcraft can be used, and his power has not disappeared. Except for the disappearance of the simulator, there was no change at all between him and reality at this moment. Even the world is still the same world, and nothing in his eyes has changed at all. Chen Mu stirred up 2 space treasures in the spiritual sea. The space key and space bracelet appeared in his hands, and nothing inside was missing. Call the crows. Looking at the white-robed man guarding outside the apartment, Chen Mu said. The man in white robe nodded respectfully, and then left to find the black crow. After a while, the black crow appeared in front of Chen Mu. There is still the familiar smell of blood, and the black crow is still the same as the plain-faced black crow. There is no change at all, just like the black crow in reality. Chen Mu looked at black crow, seeing Chen Mu sizing him up. Black Crow stood there without squinting. "It's okay, let's go." Chen Mu waved his hand and asked the Black Crow to leave. Black Crow said nothing, nodded respectfully and left. Now Chen Mu is sure, that is, there is no difference between real body simulation and reality. Not only himself, but also other people in the simulation have not changed at all, and there is no difference from reality. At this time, Chen Mu had some doubts about whether this was a parallel world. Because this is a real world, it's too real, the senses of hearing, smell, and touch all indicate that this is a real world, but the problem is that Chen Mu knows that this is a simulated world. The simulator is too exaggerated. A world was created out of thin air, and the people in it completely replicated reality. If this is really the case, doesn't it mean that level 5 wizards, level 6 wizards, and even level 7 wizard simulators can also be reproduced? The most important thing is that there is no cost for real body simulation. Is once a year considered a price? It's pretty much a benefit. Even though Chen Mu was already a first-level wizard, he was still shocked now. This kind of feeling cannot be brought to him by text simulation, although the text simulation would also shock Chen Mu. That was when he improved his level after the simulation, but the real body simulation is different. The real body simulation shocks Chen Mu all the time. Don't think about it anymore. Thinking about it again will affect your Taoist mind. Chen Mu put away the messy thoughts in his heart and put the simulator behind him. Since the simulated world is so real, what if Chen Mu treats it as a real world? He also wanted to see how far he could go without plugins. Standing in the courtyard outside the apartment, Chen Mu took a look at the world, and then walked back to the apartment. Time passes, and a year passes. Chen Mu has temporarily forgotten about the simulator. Guild Master, the news you asked to pay attention to has made progress. Xinyao has found out that the news about the third-level wizard treasure is being widely spread in the Violet Continent. Hearing this, Chen Mu put down the book in his hand. He said, "Add more firepower and spread the news from Fendeo to the outside world." "Okay, Master, I understand." In this year, the White Crow Society has not only developed in Fencheng, but also extended its hands outward. Chen Mu's eyes were a little deep. "Bida, since you are so interested in me, I will add fuel to your fire." Another 2 years have passed. Colon Island, White Crow City. Chen Mu crushed a bunch of flowers in front of him and shook his head. Still not working. Without thinking again, Chen Mu stepped out of the palace. Seeing Chen Mu coming out, a young man wearing a yellow robe immediately came to greet him. He spoke respectfully. "Guild Master, the battle for the secret realm has failed. Yaoguang Academy has taken action." "Then give up. It's just a small secret realm." Chen Mu spoke calmly, his expression unchanged. "Is there any news about the totem heart I asked you to inquire about?" Hearing this, Xinya shook his head and said respectfully, "The only thing related to the heart of the totem is this secret realm." After hearing this, Chen Mu was silent for a while, then he said, "Give up. There is no need to continue to explore the heart of the totem. Let's put it aside for now. Your Yaoguang Academy is waiting for me. The gears of time will never stop turning. This turn, it will be another 10 years. Chapter 97 The Dark Raven Project and the Past 50 Years, Subscription Request. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 97 Dark Crow Project and Nearly 50 Years. Please subscribe. Taiwan Novel Network. In the middle continent of the Violet Continent, in Hines City, Lyle looked at Chen Mu in front of him helplessly, and finally shook his head. There was a hint of disappointment in Chen Mu's eyes, but it quickly disappeared. Still not working. In 3 years, his relationship with Lyle had gone from strangers to now very good. This may be the first time that Lyle has seen someone who understands him so well, and he is a blood wizard like him, so he doesn't care that Chen Mu is only a first-level wizard. Maybe at first he was a little suspicious of Chen Mu's purpose, but now he has figured it out. If there is a purpose, there must be a purpose. How could someone who could become a first-level wizard become a simple ordinary person? The relationship between him and Chen Mu was somewhat similar to Chen Mu's confidant relationship in his previous life. Lyle can only be a second-level wizard in this life. His potential has been exhausted, so he doesn't care what Chen Mu's purpose is. After all, when he was young, he was much more utilitarian than Chen Mu. Boy, the pure yellow tower is not as simple as you think. Maybe my teacher can find a way for you to join the pure yellow tower, but you know, I can't contact him at all now. Without the bloodline purification method, you are destined to stay in the realm of a first-level wizard for the rest of your life. You are still young and have plenty of time to enjoy life. Why are you so persistent? Lyle spoke. He really didn't understand why the boy in front of him was so persistent. He spent a lot of time refining his bloodline even though he knew that there would be no further improvement. As a second-level bloodline wizard, Lyle knew all too well how important the bloodline refining technique was to a bloodline wizard. Without the bloodline refining technique, no matter how high your bloodline potential is, you will only be a first-level bloodline wizard in the end. This is almost a law. From the emergence of the blood wizard path to the present, no one can break this law. Just like Lyle himself, he knew that he would never be able to become a third-level blood wizard, so he gave up practicing long ago. Hearing this, Chen Mu shook his head and said nothing. After a while, Chen Mu spoke. Lyle, I am ready to leave the Violet Continent. Thank you very much for the past 2 years. In 2 years, Lyle became more like Chen Mu's mentor and friend. He didn't care what Chen Mu's purpose was, nor did he care that Chen Mu was a first-level blood wizard inferior to him. Boy, why bother? Lair knew that Chen Mu still didn't want to give up, so he said no more. Looking at Chen Mu's leaving figure, Lyle seemed to see himself walking out of the pure yellow tower at that time. The only difference is that at that time, he was full of despair, while at this time, Chen Mu was full of hope. Maybe this is the difference between the two. Thinking of this, Lyle suddenly wanted to pick up the blood refining technique to refine his blood, but in the end, he didn't do it. Now that we have reached our limit, why waste this time? After leaving the central continent, Chen Mu returned to the White Rose School. This is not the first time that Chen Mu has returned to the White Rose School in the past 10 years. The White Rose School is no longer the same as before, because the school has another deputy leader. The extra first-level wizard is Chen Mu's teacher Mo Ben. After meeting with Mo Ben, the two chatted for a while, and Chen Mu left the school. After leaving the Violet Continent this time, he might not come back for a long time. The pure yellow tower is still too far away from him now, and Chen Mu does not intend to continue to waste time in the Violet Continent. The world does not revolve around him after all, and the rules of the pure yellow tower will not change because of him. Without hesitation, Chen Mu boarded the giant ship leaving the Violet Continent. Time passed and another 5 years passed. Cape Wanghai, Island. White Crow City. Guild Master, the people from Yaoguang Academy are here, and the amount of magic stones they requested to be handed over this year has doubled again. In the main hall of the city, Chen Mu was sitting there, and the man in white robe next to him was speaking respectfully. Hearing this, Chen Mu gently rubbed his eyebrows. The people at Yaoguang Academy are too greedy and they really can't get enough to feed them. With the development over the years, the White Crow Society has become a wizard organization that cannot be ignored in the northern continent, but relatively speaking, the problem has also arisen. Yaoguang Academy's appetite has begun to grow. Chen Mu didn't think anything happened during the text simulation. At that time, Chen Mu only cared about the final result, but the real body simulation is different. Chen Mu has to go through all the processes in person. This feeling is completely different from text simulation. There is a reason why other wizarding organizations in Jiawanghai continent, except Yaoguang Academy, cannot develop. If this happens every year, no wizarding organization can stand it. Hey! Chen Mu uttered one word, and then waved his hand to signal the man in white robe to leave. 5 more years have passed, and nothing major has happened in the Cape Wanghai continent in the past few years. Island, White Crow City, Crow Palace. Guild Master, this time Yaoguang Academy requires more magic stones to be handed over, and we are required to provide 3 third-level wizard apprentices. Chen Mu was sitting in the middle of the palace, his expression unchanged after hearing these words. I don't make much every year, but I turn in more and more. Although these magic stones are not a big deal for the White Crow Society, they are definitely not a small amount. Moreover, Yaoguang Academy has more conditions this year. Not only do you have to pay money, but you also have to pay people. 3 third-level wizard apprentices are nothing to today's White Crow Society, but if Chen Mu really agrees to Yaoguang Academy's request this time, I'm afraid there will be 5 next year and 10 in the 3rd year. Yaoguang Academy dared to be so unscrupulous just because they dared not refuse, but this time, they may be disappointed. Chen Mu pinched his fingers and said softly, how is Yaoguang Academy's investigation of the Branches in the northern continent. As soon as these words came out, the next man in yellow robes spoke. We have already found out everything. How sure are you? 30%, 30%. 30% is enough. Abandon the 3 islands and 4 cities controlled by the White Crow Society and start the Dark Crow Project. The Cape Wang High continent has been cold for so long, and it's time for it to become lively. 3 months passed, the calm Cape Wang High continent exploded like a bomb dropped on the calm lake surface. An unbelievable news suddenly spread throughout the Cape Wang High continent. Something happened to Yaoguang Academy, which has ruled the Cape Wang High continent for hundreds of years. There were more than 16 Yaoguang branches in the northern continent, and as many as 1,000 wizard apprentices were assassinated and intercepted, 4 first-level wizards died. The first reaction of everyone who hears this news is that this is absolutely fake news. You must know that the invincible power of Yaoguang Academy has spread throughout the Cape Wang High continent for 100 years. Those who dare to provoke Yaoguang Academy will undoubtedly end up as corpses. Under such circumstances, someone actually dared to assassinate and kill people from Yaoguang Academy. How is this possible when even 4 real wizards died? But the fact is that it happened, as can be seen from the crazy actions of Yaoguang Academy. This giant machine that ruled the entire Cape Wang High continent started to move at this time, and what caused all this was just a little-known wizard organization in the northern continent, White Crow Society. The White Crow Society has become completely famous this time, and it can be said that everyone in the mainland knows about it. It is even called the Demon Crow Society, by countless people. The White Crow Society suddenly became the most notorious dark wizard organization in the entire continent. Of course, this is in the eyes of ordinary people, in the eyes of those wizarding organizations that have been bullied by Yaoguang Academy for a long time. The White Crow Society is undoubtedly a hero. Bailey's words that everyone knew and everyone knew came true. It's just a pity that Belle can't see this scene. Because Chen Mu personally sent him to see God. Is there a God in the wizarding world? Forget it. At this time, Chen Mu had already left Yaoguang High continent. The bustling Cape Wang High continent has nothing to do with him. The White Crow Society also fell completely silent, except for some second-level wizard apprentices who were found and killed by people from Yaoguang Academy, or the whereabouts of the rest were interrogated. Most of the core members have relied on the seal of the White Crow to change their appearance, and are distributed and hidden among the thousands of islands on the Cape Wang High continent. If you want to find them all, it will undoubtedly be like looking for a needle in a haystack. They turned into dark crows, waiting for Chen Mu to summon again. Time will not stand still because of someone. In a blink of an eye, 20 years have passed. It has been 20 years since the magic crow change. The White Crow Society has become a black spot in the history of Yaoguang College. After all, the slap 20 years ago was too loud. Lilith Continent, Southern Continent, inside Brentland Manor, a woman with a very beautiful face gently kissed Chen Mu on the lips and then placed the food. How's it going with Zeus? Now I know how to care about your child. I thought Zeus was my only child. Hearing this, Chen Mu smiled awkwardly. He had indeed paid little attention to his son in recent years. Shanli rolled her eyes at Chen Mu, and then continued, Zeus has returned to the Black Forest Lodge. Instructor Berlin said that he hopes to become a second-level wizard apprentice before he is 20 years old. Chen Mu nodded. His son's wizard qualifications were much better than his. With second-class wizard qualifications, if you are careful, you might as well take a peek at the realm of a first-class wizard in the future. How are you considering the invitation from the Black Forest Lodge? Shanli looked at Chen Mu curiously and said. Chen Mu picked up a piece of bread and ate it slowly, then shook his head. No, I don't want to be constrained by trivial matters. Well, it seems that Zeus has one less thing to brag about with others. Shanli spoke with a smile, and then pushed the food in front of her towards Chen Mu. In the past 20 years, Chen Mu has completely regarded this place as a real world. After all, it has only been a few years since he traveled through time, and how long has passed since this real body simulation? It has been nearly 50 years. In other words, Chen Mu has been living in this world built by the simulator for 50 years. He had a wife, a child, and there was news about the introduction of the half-witch's potion. Everything is on track. Maybe through this real body simulation, he could become a real first-level spiritual wizard. The plot of the real body simulation will be over in the next chapter. It's done in 3 chapters, please praise me. Chapter 98 The Future Chen Mu, the first level wizard, and the end of the real body simulation. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 98 Future Chen Mu and First Level Wizard and End of True Body Simulation, Subscription Request. In the small laboratory of the Bountland Manor, Chen Mu held a very damaged book in his hand. Chen Mu's eyes stayed on one of the pages of the book, and then repeatedly confirmed, I can only give it a try. Even if I fail, there may be opportunities in the future. Chen Mu said to himself, and then closed the damaged book. With a move of his mental power, a bottle of magic potion appeared in his hand. The next moment, a red gem appeared in his hand. Half-witch magic potion, totem heart. Chen Mu opened the magic potion, and then crushed the gem directly with his hands, and the gem powder flowed from Chen Mu's hands into the bottle. After the powder of the totem heart was poured into the half-witch magic potion, the magic potion underwent drastic changes. Gulp, gulp. As if the water was boiled, the magic potion began to bubble constantly. Chen Mu could feel the burning temperature of the potion in his hand. But this burning temperature was nothing to him, under Chen Mu's sight. The color of the half-witch potion slowly changed from light black to red, until it turned completely red, turning into the color of blood. When all the changes stopped, Chen Mu picked up the half-witch potion and shook it in front of his eyes. It was very viscous, somewhat similar to the blood of some beasts. Can this really be drunk? Will it cause any problems? Chen Mu put his nose close to the mouth of the bottle and smelled it, and a pungent smell came out, but it was done. Even if the totem heart was not the trigger, the half-witch potion was ruined at this time, so Chen Mu did not hesitate, picked up the potion and drank it all in one gulp. This sip, Chen Mu almost vomited. It was too hard to drink. Chen Mu felt like he was drinking bloody snot. After drinking it, Chen Mu quickly started to operate the Black Tower meditation method. There was no change, the meditation method was the same as usual, without any improvement. It still doesn't work. Although Chen Mu was a little disappointed, he didn't have too many emotions. After all, he had the simulator for more than a day or two, and there was still a long time. If it didn't work this time, there would be the next time. Just when Chen Mu was about to stop the meditation method, a change occurred. Chen Mu's mind was shocked, and the scene of the laboratory in front of him disappeared. Everything in front of him changed dramatically. In a trance, he seemed to be suspended above a huge sea. Chen Mu was not unfamiliar with the vast sea under his feet. It was the spiritual sea of the wizard, but Chen Mu could be sure that this spiritual sea was definitely not his own, because it was too big. Compared with this place, his own spiritual sea was undoubtedly a firefly and a bright moon. How huge is this spiritual sea? Chen Mu didn't know, but he felt that it was bigger than the entire Yaoguang Sea. Time seemed to stop at this moment, and Chen Mu didn't know how long it had passed, until a huge back appeared in front of him, a back like a giant. This back made Chen Mu's turbid eyes more clear, very familiar. It seemed to be himself. Chen Mu unconsciously had such a thought in his mind, but how could it be possible? This back figure was about to break through the sky, as if it was bigger than a planet. Could this be him? Or was this his fantasy? But the next moment, the giant moved, and the giant turned and looked at him. Chen Mu's mind was shocked. It was really him. At least the face was no different from his. At this time, Chen Mu suddenly had an extra thought in his mind. That's me. The future me. Suddenly, all the scenes in front of him shattered like a broken mirror. Chen Mu's head went black and he fainted. Chen Mu's eyelids moved, and then he opened his eyes. The first thing that caught his eyes was white, and then Shanli, who was looking at him with a worried look on her face. Shanli held Chen Mu's hand and said worriedly, "Why did you suddenly faint in the laboratory? Did you do a dangerous experiment?" Chen Mu gently patted Shanli's hand with his hand, indicating that he was fine and didn't need to worry. The body was not affected. At least Chen Mu felt full of strength at this time. Chen Mu sat up. "It's okay, Shanli, don't worry." Hearing Chen Mu's full voice, Shanli's worry disappeared a little. "Then you have a good rest, I'll prepare some food for you." Chen Mu nodded. Shanli kissed Chen Mu's mouth lightly and left. Chen Mu, sitting on the bed, rubbed his eyebrows. The memory before fainting was a little fuzzy. He seemed to see his future self. The effect of the half-witch magic potion is to borrow some power from the future self and then feed it back to the present, so it's normal to see the future self. Normal ghost. If this is really the case, it is impossible that there is no book saying that the half-witch magic potion has this effect. and is he really that powerful in the future? Just a glance at it feels like looking at a world. His wizard qualification is only the 5th level. Logically speaking, his future should be at most a 1st-level wizard. By the way, simulator, Chen Mu suddenly thought in his heart, he almost forgot about the simulator. If he saw the future with the simulator, then it would make sense. Of course, Chen Mu was not sure. He didn't know if it was an illusion after he took the potion, the next moment. Chen Mu's mental power swept through the room like a breeze, and some curtains were blown by the breeze and made a loud sound. 1st-level wizard of the spiritual system. Putting away his mental power, Chen Mu felt a little emotional. Before he became a 1st-level wizard of the spiritual system, Chen Mu was extremely eager to step into this realm, but when he really became a 1st-level wizard of the spiritual system, he didn't feel that special surprise. Everything was so natural. Maybe it was because Chen Mu had become a 1st-level wizard once. Or maybe Chen Mu felt that a 1st-level wizard was just like that after seeing his huge back in the future. In fact, Chen Mu didn't know that many books about half-witch potions did not mention a point that did exist, that is, 50% of the half-witch potions became formal wizards, which actually refers to wizard apprentices with 1st-class wizard qualifications. It is estimated that the great wizard who developed the half-witch potion did not expect it. There are actually people with 5th-level qualifications who can become 1st-level wizards after taking the potion. Chen Mu also attributed his ability to become a 1st-level wizard to the half-witch potion. What he did not know was that the main reason for his ability to become a 1st-level wizard was not the half-witch potion, but the future him. Time flies, and another 10 years have passed. In the Black Forest Hut Wizard Academy, in the experimental area, a huge laboratory, Chen Mu stopped his movements and turned his eyes to the young man in front of him who looked somewhat similar to him. Zeus, his son, One Ring Witchcraft, Eye of Truth. After the Eye of Truth swept over, Chen Mu nodded and said, "Not bad, but it is still a little unstable to become a 2nd-level wizard apprentice. Remember not to be impatient. You must know that there are many people who are more talented than you. Some people can even become wizards at the age of 20, so you have nothing to be proud of." Hearing Chen Mu's words, Zeus looked like he was kidding me. Becoming a wizard at the age of 20, don't joke, even gods can't do it. I understand, father. However, Zeus still replied respectfully. The person he respected most was his father, so he would remember every word of Chen Mu. Well, take a mission in the academy to gain some experience. Don't stay in the academy all the time. Okay, father. Zeus nodded and said goodbye to Chen Mu and left the laboratory. Chen Mu glanced at Zeus's back, then retracted his gaze. Time passed, 50 years passed. Chen Mu and the manor stopped refining blood. It's true, the older you are, the slower the speed of blood refining. If you count, this simulation has been over for 103 years, and Chen Mu is now 124 years old. Although his physical function has not declined, it is about the same as when he was 30 years old, but the speed of blood refining has gradually slowed down. Although Chen Mu already knew this in many previous text simulations, when he really experienced it, this feeling of powerlessness was not in the text simulation. In the text simulation, he can concentrate on refining blood until death, refining blood for 23 hours and 24 hours a day, but in reality, he obviously can't do this. Although he is a wizard, he is also a person, not a machine. Father. Seeing Chen Mu stop practicing, Zeus on the side came over and spoke softly. 50 years have passed, and Zeus has become a middle-aged man now, with a beard and a lot more stable. He also has a wife and a family, and usually does not live with Chen Mu. Tomorrow is your mother's anniversary. You can stay in the manor for one night today. Chen Mu spoke lightly, and a thought flashed in his eyes, which was gone in a flash. Okay, father. Zeus' eyes also showed a trace of grief. Shanli died of natural causes, and even Chen Mu had no way. In the last few years of Shanli, he searched all over the continent and did not find a way to increase her lifespan. He has countless practice resources, but these practice resources cannot push a woman at the level of a 2nd-level wizard apprentice to a 3rd-level wizard apprentice. In the end, he could only watch Shanli smile and close her eyes. The next day, Shanli's anniversary passed. Chen Mu called Zeus to him. Father. Zeus, I'm leaving the continent. As soon as Chen Mu opened his mouth, Zeus's face changed. Father, you don't persuade me, I'm not from Lilith continent, and I'm not leaving this time to not come back. You've reached the limit of a third-level wizard apprentice. Chen Mu no longer put on a serious attitude in front of Zeus, but smiled lightly. Zeus nodded. The next moment, Chen Mu's mental power moved, and a bracelet appeared in his hand. He handed the bracelet to Zeus. The things inside are enough to support you to practice to the first-level wizard, which is my compensation for my lack of care for you over the years. Take it, I hope you will be a wizard when I come back. Chen Mu smiled lightly and said, the things in the bracelet are enough to make a first-level wizard jealous, but Chen Mu doesn't care, because it's useless to him. Chen Mu didn't know whether the world constructed by this simulator belonged to a parallel world, or maybe it was a completely fake world, but Chen Mu didn't care. Since he was here, he had to leave something behind. After all, Zeus was his son. If there was no problem with the blood seed, Chen Mu would have left the blood seed to Zeus. After all, after the simulation, perhaps everything disappeared. There must be Shanli in reality, but Chen Mu didn't know whether he would have any contact with Shanli in reality. Chen Mu has let it go now. He regarded everything in the simulation as a real dream. Time passed, and another 50 years passed, when the last White Crow seal in Chen Mu's mind dissipated. It meant that there was no one else in the White Crow society except him. Chen Mu was actually a little curious about who could survive so well. He hadn't used the White Crow seal in these years, because he didn't need to pull up another force. He wanted to see the world with his own eyes. Chen Mu's footprints were left on each of the 4 continents of Yaoguang. Time is like a knife, and the people who were familiar at the beginning have become the past tense. Mo Ben is also dead, and the White Rose School is still there, but the students have been replaced again and again. When Chen Mu stepped on the magnificent sea and stood on the sea, a trace of loneliness flashed in his eyes unconsciously. But this loneliness soon disappeared. He still has 100 years to live, but he has always had an obsession in his heart over the years. Now he has to use the remaining time to break this obsession in his heart. Time passes, and this time, it is a full 100 years. A middle-aged man with a decayed smell stepped out of the giant ship. Stepping on the ground under his feet, a smile appeared on the middle-aged man's face. No one around noticed this middle-aged man, as if he didn't exist. Carson's secondary continent. That the moment Chen Mu closed his eyes, the world seemed to be broken into pieces like a broken mirror. Time seemed to be going back, until a certain moment, Chen Mu opened his eyes. Everything in front of him was so strange. Strange apartment, strange room. I'm back. Looking at everything in front of him, Chen Mu spoke with some emotion. Real body simulation ended. Realm, magic, memory have been preserved. Hundreds of years of memory gradually became clear, and the power he possessed did not disappear in the slightest, and his body seemed to be purified, and the old air disappeared. At this time, Chen Mu could understand those reborn people in the novels of his previous life. Now, he has just experienced rebirth. When the strange attribute panel appeared in front of him again, he wanted to say to the simulator, Hack, do you know how I have lived these hundreds of years? Name, Chen Mu. Spirit, 15.5. Constitution, 16.2. Night Realm, Great Night. Spiritual Wizard Realm, First Level Wizard. Bloodline Wizard Realm, First Level Wizard. Breathing Method, Golden Lion Breathing Method, Perfect. Meditation Method, Black Tower Meditation Method, Perfect. Night Skill. Spiritual Witchcraft, Eye of Truth, 1 ring, Dark Flame, 1 ring, Healing Light, 1 ring. Bloodline Witchcraft, Crows, 1 ring, White Crow Seal, 1 ring, White Storm, 1 ring. After taking a look at the panel in front of him, Chen Mu turned it off with a thought. Although his body is no longer old, his eyes are filled with vicissitudes that cannot be dissipated for a long time. Now he needs to slow down. Thank you for your monthly tickets, and thank the Confused Knight for 200 points. Chapter 99 Automatic Protection, Experience Potion, and Dark Star Wand, please order. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 99 Automatic Protection, Experience Potion, and Dark Star Wand, subscribe. A dozen days passed in a flash. After a tour of Fincham, Chen Mu returned to his apartment. It must be said that the real body simulation was much more outrageous than he had imagined. This was not only reflected in the improvement of realm and magic. Although his body regained its youth under the influence of the simulator, his mental age remained unchanged for hundreds of years. After all, the world in the real body simulation is completely the same as the real world. It is too real. This caused the hundreds of years of experience in the real body simulation to linger in his mind. These experiences are certainly a huge wealth, but they also made him uninterested in everything now. Just as Chen Mu was immersed in his memories, a familiar mechanical voice sounded in Chen Mu's mind. The host's mental abnormality was detected, and the simulator's automatic protection function was turned on. The moment this mechanical voice sounded, Chen Mu subconsciously raised his head. In an instant, Chen Mu's mind was like a breeze blowing through, very comfortable. Chen Mu closed his eyes to feel the changes brought about by the simulator's protection function. The next moment, when Chen Mu opened his eyes, the vicissitudes in his eyes had disappeared. Does the simulator have this function? Chen Mu was a little surprised. The memory of hundreds of years still exists, but the simulator makes it exist in a different way. Chen Mu now has no feeling of being uninterested in anything. This feeling is very wonderful. It's like he watched a very long movie. The protagonist of the movie is him, and then everything that happened in the movie is clearly imprinted in his mind. This feeling is completely different from before. Although Chen Mu still knows some things in the next few hundred years, these things have changed from the first person to the third person. You may be emotionally affected by a movie, but you can't be emotionally affected by a movie all the time. This is how Chen Mu feels now. He feels that he has suddenly become much younger, and this youth is not only reflected in his physical age, but also in his psychological age. This automatic protection function of the simulator came too timely. If this function is not available, Chen Mu will have to be more cautious in dealing with the real body simulation in the future. After all, as his realm improves and his lifespan increases, he will only live longer and longer in the real body simulation, if it happens a few more times. Chen Mu is probably a little overwhelmed. Now that the simulator can provide him with protection, he has no worries. If there is a real body simulation, Chen Mu will just treat it as watching a movie. After the automatic protection, Chen Mu felt much more relaxed. Chen Mu really didn't know how those people who lived for hundreds of years and were reborn once in the novels of his previous life could withstand it. This time, Chen Mu almost didn't recover. If it weren't for the simulator, it might take a lot of time just to adjust his mentality. I didn't expect that the simulator actually has functions other than simulation. Chen Mu was in a good mood. The real body simulation gained a lot, and he also explored a hidden function of the simulator. The next moment, Chen Mu, who was in a good mood, sensed something, and then used his mental power to open the door of the apartment. A young man in a yellow robe stood in front of the door, and his hand that was about to knock on the door was also put down. When he saw Chen Mu, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. The leader is indeed worthy of being the leader, and his temperament has changed again and again. But the next moment, he still spoke respectfully. Leader, some of the people who went to Kellen Island have returned, and brought back a lot of useful information. Hearing this, Chen Mu nodded. If the White Crow Society wants to develop outward, it cannot bypass Kellen Island. As the island closest to Fan Island, Kellen Island is larger than Fan Island, but not much larger. After all, they are all small islands on the edge of the Yaoguang continent. Let the people who go to Kellen Island hide. The plan does not depend on this moment. Chen Mu said, and the information of Kellen Island emerged in his mind. As an island that has been in the real body simulation for decades, the base camp of the White Crow Society, Chen Mu is familiar with Kellen Island and even more than Fan Island. After Chen Mu finished speaking, the letter Crow nodded. The White Crow Society is now in a stage of rapid development, and there is really no need to cause trouble again. The Crow left respectfully, while Chen Mu was thinking on the spot. Hundreds of years of memory let Chen Mu know a lot of things that others don't know. For example, there is a secret realm that has not been discovered on the current Kellen Island. There are some things in that secret realm that Chen Mu is still quite interested in. In the simulation, the secret realm was eventually occupied by the people of Yaoguang Academy, but Chen Mu in reality would naturally not give Yaoguang Academy a chance. In addition to this secret realm, Chen Mu can also intercept a lot of things that others don't know and only he knows. It happened that Chen Mu had nothing to do at this time, so he simply got the things in the secret realm first. As soon as he said it, Chen Mu moved and disappeared in the apartment. A few days later, a small strait on Kellen Island. Boom! The huge mental power was mobilized by Chen Mu, making a lot of noise. The waves rolled, and a somewhat illusory vortex-shaped door appeared in front of Chen Mu. Chen Mu put away his spiritual power and stepped into the secret realm. The next moment, the scene in front of him changed, the strait disappeared, and a vast plain appeared in front of him. One ring witchcraft, eye of truth. The spiritual power turned into an eye and appeared above the secret realm. Chen Mu closed his eyes, and the scene in the secret realm could still appear in his mind. After a moment, Chen Mu put away his spiritual eye. Putting away his spiritual eye, Chen Mu's body turned into a flock of crows and flew in 4 directions. Not long after, a white crow stopped in front of a stone statue, and the white crow turned into Chen Mu. Chen Mu moved his eyes to the statue in front of him, stretched out his hand and gently patted the surface of the statue. With this pat, the statue turned into dust like dust and flew in all directions. A red gem fell from the original position of the statue. Chen Mu reached out to catch it, and put it into the space key. The next moment, Chen Mu's figure disappeared from the original place and appeared on the other side, the same statue, the same way. In this way, Chen Mu got a total of 4 red gems. These red gems are naturally one of the key things that allowed him to become a first-level spiritual wizard in the real body. Simulation, the heart of the totem. The effect of the heart of the totem is far more than just being the primer of the half-witch potion. Many people don't even know that it is the primer of the half-witch potion. The most well-known effect of the heart of the totem is that it can enhance the wizard's spiritual power. Yes, it sounds like there is nothing special about it, but the key is that this heart of the totem forcibly enhances the wizard's spiritual power, and there are no side effects. In other words, no matter what your qualifications are, whether you are a wizard apprentice or a first-level wizard, you can rely on the heart of the totem to enhance your spiritual power. This is somewhat similar to the experience potion in Chen Mu's previous life game. It can also be said that it is an alternative experience potion. The heart of the totem can be used as the primer of the half-witch potion perhaps because of this effect, and the heart of the totem may not be so important to others, but Chen Mu is different. He can fully rely on simulation to maximize the use of the totem heart. Absorbing 4 totem hearts in one simulation, 40 in 10 simulations, as long as Chen Mu in reality never absorbs totem hearts, he can always take advantage of the simulator. Too easy. Is this the benefit of foresight? Putting the 4 totem hearts into the space key, Chen Mu sighed slightly in his heart. In the real body simulation, he spent a lot of effort for a totem heart and even planned the Dark Crow plan early, but in the end he only got 1. In reality, he got 4 totem hearts with almost no effort. The difference is just a real body simulation. And Chen Mu has more than just the totem heart in his mind. There are too many undiscovered treasures in the 4 continents of Yaoguang, and Chen Mu knows a lot of them. He didn't stay in the secret realm for a long time. Since he came here this time, Chen Mu naturally wants to intercept more than just the totem heart. The next moment, Chen Mu's figure disappeared from the spot. Outside the secret realm, Chen Mu mobilized his mental power to break the still existing illusory vortex gate. Crescent Bay, Kellen Island. Chen Mu's blood circulation dried the wet clothes on his body. He had a seemingly ordinary wooden stick in his hand. The wooden stick was soaked in water, and Chen Mu felt heavy when he picked it up. The next moment, Chen Mu mobilized a huge mental power. The mental power poured into the wooden stick, washing the entire wooden stick. Ah! A scream came from the wooden stick, and Chen Mu continued to mobilize a huge mental power as if he didn't hear it. As time passed, the scream disappeared, and the originally brown wooden stick gradually became stained with a touch of black, and there were a few more lines around the wooden stick. Dark Star Wand, Chen Mu said to himself, with a touch of joy in his eyes. As for the scream just now, he had ignored it. It was just a broken spiritual body, which did not interest Chen Mu. Good stuff, this is a good stuff. Even Chen Mu in the simulation had only heard about this magic weapon, but when he knew that the magic weapon was finally obtained by Yaoguang Academy, he still asked the people of the White Crow Society to find out the most detailed information. This is a second-level magic weapon, and it is also a wand-type magic weapon that increases the power of witchcraft, and it is also engraved with a second ring witchcraft dark star spell. It can be said that it is not an exaggeration to say that it is the most valuable thing on Chen Mu's body now. Chen Mu carefully looked at the dark star wand, and then put the wand into the space key. It is hard to imagine that a small island like Kellen Island can have so many treasures that even wizards are extremely jealous of. The text simulation is condensed into a few paragraphs of text every year, and it is still from Chen Mu's first-person perspective. so no matter how many times he goes through the text simulation, he will still not know the news that he should not know. The real body simulation is different. The real body simulation is to experience everything in all directions without blind spots. If Chen Mu had not experienced a real-life simulation, he himself could not imagine that a small island like Kellen could have so many treasures. This trip to Kellen Island yielded a lot of rewards. Chapter 100 Benny and a few months later, subscribe. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 100 Benny and a few months later, subscribe. The dark Kellen Island seemed extremely quiet, at this time, in a place on Kellen Island that was not well known to everyone. A middle-aged man in a purple robe looked around with a serious expression. The next moment, he closed his eyes and used his mental power to explore the surrounding environment, but did not find anything unusual. The middle-aged man breathed a sigh of relief, and his emotions were surging in his heart. Where did the weirdness come from? That it didn't take long for him to breathe a sigh of relief, and his face suddenly changed. The mental power was instantly mobilized by him, and it quickly spread outward with him as the center. One ring witchcraft mind light curtain. A pale yellow light curtain enveloped the middle-aged man's body. Boom! A loud noise was heard, and the light curtain vibrated violently and then returned to calm. At the same time, a witchcraft disc suddenly appeared in the middle-aged man's hand, and his mental power surged, and his figure disappeared on the spot. Chen Mu, who was standing next to him, did not change his expression and also disappeared on the spot. Kellen Island, an unknown place. Benny suddenly appeared here. His face was a little bitter, he licked his teeth with his tongue, and the bloody taste in his mouth made his mind clearer. He subconsciously looked around and found nothing unusual, but this time he didn't breathe a sigh of relief, because the last teleportation disc had been used by him. Now, if he was found again, he couldn't run away. Yaoguang Academy, Benny said to himself, with a hint of hatred in his eyes, but it soon disappeared. Compared with the panic in his heart, he was more confused at this time. He didn't know why he would provoke the people of Yaoguang Academy. Could it be that he killed one of their students many years ago and was discovered? But that was many years ago. How could it be possible that he would come to the door after decades? What's more, he is a first-level wizard. Would Yaoguang Academy trouble him for a dead wizard apprentice? It's unlikely no matter how you think about it. Especially the wizards of Yaoguang Academy are people who will not get up early without profit. How could they possibly attack for a wizard apprentice? But apart from this reason, he couldn't think of how he had offended Yaoguang Academy. He had many doubts and puzzles in his heart, but obviously no one could answer them at this time. Benny took out a bottle of magic potion and drank it all in one gulp, recovering some mental power. The gradually recovered mental power gave him some sense of security. Finally, after taking a look at the surrounding environment, Benny mobilized the few mental powers in the spiritual sea. One ring witchcraft wind walk. His body seemed to turn into a hurricane and disappeared instantly. At this time, he didn't care why the people of Yaoguang Academy would attack him. He had to leave the hell of Kellen Island now. This time, he felt that he would never come back, although he didn't know why he had provoked the people of Yaoguang Academy. Jiawanghai continent was the territory of Yaoguang Academy after all, but before he flew far, a human figure suddenly appeared in his sight. Again. Benny gritted his teeth and changed direction in an instant, but Chen Mu was faster than him. Almost in the blink of an eye, Chen Mu appeared in front of him. Looking at Chen Mu who suddenly appeared in front of him, Benny's eyes showed a trace of despair. At this time, there was very little spiritual power left in his spiritual sea, and he could only mobilize some zero-ring witchcraft, but these zero-ring witchcraft could not change the current situation at all. His death seemed inevitable. Think of him, Benny, who was gifted and had the qualifications of a first-class wizard. He became a first-class wizard before he was 100 years old. At this time, he was going to die so unclearly. At this time, he was full of hatred for Yaoguang Academy. If I had known that I would become a first-class wizard, I should have slaughtered you all. Give up resistance, let go of the spiritual sea, and I will give you a chance to live. Just when Benny decided to face death calmly, Chen Mu in front of him spoke. The tone was very indifferent, as if he was chatting with him. Hearing this, Benny's eyes had a glimmer of hope, but it disappeared in the blink of an eye. Want me to be a dog? Benny, who was gifted, had first-class wizard qualifications, and became a first-class wizard before he was 100 years old. How could he be a running dog of someone? He knew too well what releasing the spiritual sea meant. With the means of the man in front of him, releasing the spiritual sea would undoubtedly make him give his life to the man in front of him. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Right? Okay. Benny closed his eyes decisively and completely released the spiritual sea. After careful consideration, actually just 1 second, Benny decided to release the spiritual sea. Living is the most important thing. Benny, there's nothing wrong with being a dog, at least you can live, right? Living is more important than anything else, and if you die, you will have nothing. He spent nearly 100 years to become a first-class wizard, not to be buried in the ground in the end. Besides, the man in front of him is so powerful, he can be called the strongest first-level wizard that Benny has ever seen, and it's not bad to be his dog. Benny kept brainwashing himself in his heart, looking at Benny's appearance. Chen Mu's eyes did not show any surprise. As expected of you. Chen Mu had never intended to kill him. Killing Benny would not benefit him, and it would not benefit the White Crow Society to control Kellan Island. Besides, this Benny is also a talent, as Chen Mu knew in the simulation. The main reason why the White Crow Society could control Kellan Island so smoothly in the simulation was that Benny ran away. Chen Mu didn't even make a move, and Benny ran away directly. Benny didn't even know the strength of the White Crow Society and ran away directly, without stopping. You should know that Kellan Island is his territory, and he has been here for decades, but when the White Crow Society came, Benny disappeared directly. Later, Chen Mu also inquired about Benny's information. The information was inquired, but the person could not be found. This person has extremely high qualifications and is particularly good at hiding. When Chen Mu left Yaoguang High Continent, this Benny even became a second-level wizard. Since Benny is so sensible, Chen Mu has nothing to say, decisively engraved the White Crow seal into Benny's spiritual sea and blood, double imprint. As long as Benny doesn't change his body, he can't get rid of Chen Mu's control even if he becomes a second-level wizard. My lord. Benny adapted to his new identity very quickly. Chen Mu nodded and told Benny about the White Crow Society, then let Benny take control of Kellan Island on his behalf. Subjugating a person is equivalent to controlling an island, and there is no efficiency that can be compared to this. Letting the White Crow Society erode Kellan Island step by step is really not as good as Chen Mu's one-step approach. I understand, Master. Benny nodded respectfully and said, since he has joined the White Crow Society, there is no way to resist, so he can only enjoy it. Benny feels that he still has a bright future, now that the White Crow Society has only him, a first-level wizard, in addition to the Master. With the Master's ability, the future of the White Crow Society will definitely not be simple. By then, he will be a veteran-level figure. Looking at the energetic Benny, Chen Mu didn't say anything more and left here directly. Benny has controlled Kellan Island for decades, so naturally he doesn't need to give too many instructions in this regard. A few months later. Master, there is news coming back. 6 months ago, the news of a third-level wizard treasure came out from the Violet Continent, and now the news has gradually spread to the Yaoguang High Continent. The white-robed man who spoke in front of Chen Mu had a hint of desire in his tone. After all, this is a third-level wizard treasure, and anyone would be tempted. If this treasure is not Chen Mu's own, Chen Mu would probably be tempted. Hearing this, Chen Mu did not react. The news of the third-level wizard treasure cannot be concealed. Chen Mu knew this very well. Those people in the White Tower could not find him and could only spread the news, but Chen Mu did not have any other emotions now. After all, the third-level wizard treasure was no longer related to him. The third-level wizard treasure belongs to Chen Mu, and what does it have to do with him, the master of the White Crow Society? Don't worry about it. If there is a disturbance in the city, just suppress it directly. Chen Mu said. In the simulation, he chose to add fuel to the fire, but in reality, he didn't need to do so. This kind of news cannot be concealed, and it will spread if it should, but compared with the simulation with Chen Mu's help, the speed of this news spreading in reality is slower. How are the people from Yaoguang Academy? Master, the people from Yaoguang Academy have left, and Hanya has handed in all the magic stones. Chen Mu nodded. The current Yaoguang Academy is not as unscrupulous as in the simulation. The magic stones collected have not increased compared to last year, but have decreased. However, once the White Crow Association develops rapidly, the requirements of Yaoguang Academy will gradually increase. Chen Mu waved his hand to signal the white-robed man to leave. The white-robed man respectfully left. And Chen Mu stayed alone in the apartment. After several months, the White Crow Association has now reached out to the two small islands around Fan Island. Among these two islands, Kellen Island has fallen into Chen Mu's hands. As for controlling the remaining island, it won't be too far away. The White Crow Club in reality is developing much faster than the White Crow Club in the simulation. Now the White Crow Club no longer needs to actively recruit people, and there are many people who want to join the White Crow Club. But at this time, Chen Mu is thinking about whether to return to Carson Continent after the matter here. In the real body simulation, he finally found the way back to Carson Continent, but if he wants to go back, it will take more than a few months. In the text simulation, he tried it, and the fastest time took him 3 years. If he comes back again, it will take 6 years to go back and forth. There are two continental groups between the sea area of Yaoguang Sea and the sea area of Carson Continent. Even so, it is because Chen Mu chose to cross the sea in his physical body. If he took a giant ship, it would probably take more than 10 years. This time is too long, so Chen Mu is just considering it now, and he has not made up his mind. In the end, Chen Mu chose to temporarily put aside the matter of returning to Carson Continent. Of course, he is not going back, but just postpone the time of returning. As for when to go back, when he becomes a second-level wizard, he will definitely go back.